A very warm good afternoon to all delegates and the panelists out here. It's wonderful to see such a large audience at the first big cinema expo, and I must express my hearty congratulations to Raghav for creating such a wonderful platform. A big round of applause for Raghav and his team. I think the industry needs such a platform in India, so it's great that such a platform has been conceived. So before I commence with the panel discussion, I would like to introduce the panelists to all of you. We have Mr. Rajesh Patkar, the Deputy General Manager from Christie Digital India. And then we have Mr. Yusuf from Galalite Screens, followed by Mr. Adam MacDonald from MasterImage 3D, and Mr. Nico from Barco. We have seen the evolution of the projection technologies from the analog days to the current digital projection standards, what we are witnessing today. It's been a tremendous journey that we have been seeing over the past 15 to 20 years, how the technology landscape has changed from analog to 4K and laser that we have today. Digital cinema has tremendously impacted the change of projection standards, and I think as far as India is concerned, India is also rapidly evolving and changing to 4K, and I think today we have around 200 plus theaters which have gone for 4K projectors. So I would like to invite each of these panelists to make their opening remarks and a brief presentation. I think Nico has a brief presentation and Mr. Patkar also. So I would like to invite Mr. Nico to make his opening remarks, what he feels about the 4K laser 3D and what he feels about the future proof of projection technology is concerned. So please, Mr. Nico, would you please make the opening remarks and commence your presentation?
Okay. You want me up there for my opening remarks? Or you... Okay. Let me just also say, I'm also really impressed by the turnout here today, so I'm really looking forward to debating with you. My opening statement on the topic at hand, 4K, laser, 3D, I think we all know it's going to be all of the above. But me personally, I will zoom in a little bit more on the laser technology side of things. I will, in my presentation, briefly go into how both laser phosphor and RGB technology really can drive the future in cinema. So, oh, it's already up there. So, okay. Briefly, on my background, I have been with Barco for 5 years. I am now part of the global strategic marketing team. In those 5 years, I have typically done roles in business analysis, market research, merger and acquisitions. So in our team now, I am a bit more of like the trends guy. So I'm not really the deep technical guy. I'm the one who looks after the big trends from a global perspective. My specific role in that team is focusing on long-term plans, long-term relationship with key accounts and key regions, of which India is one. So I'm really happy I'm here today and I can engage with you today. So that's briefly on me. Now, this works perfectly. Very quickly, who is Barco? We have done quite well since the start of the digitization. At the moment, from a worldwide perspective, Barco has 65,000 screens which are Barco powered. So that's a little over 40% of the installed base will have a Barco machine against it. So naturally, also in terms of relationships, we have experience with most of the big players in the world. Now, like I said, I'm more of a trends guy, more of a market research guy. There's two big things that we see happening in the market today. There's two major trends. One is really about premium differentiating experiences. while at the same time, for more mainstream cinema, there's a big focus on operational excellence. And I will dive into those real quick for you. At the moment, worldwide, there's about 2,000 to 3,000 PLF screens. So PLF, premium large format. These are really branded screens with a different experience. And we see that's going to have a tremendous growth going forward. That should easily go up to 10,000 screens in the years to come. This is not just our numbers, this is also the numbers vetted by IHS, which is the industry research standard. Now, why would that growth come? Well, logically, there's always a place for a premium segment. If you take a flight, there's business seats. If you go to a stadium, there's box offices. Sure? If you're going to distribute this, I think you can look at it, yes. So we see this growth because that's less than 10%. So it's 160,000 screens in the world, 10,000 premium screens, that's quite possible. And that's also because exhibitors are really competing with each other, but also with the home. So we're really looking to differentiate. And it's still very much developing. People are really experimenting with the elements they're using in their PLF. At the same time, they have a choice between branded, for example, IMAX, or their own PLF. And also recent trends is really that their own PLF really is surging. That in terms of growth and nominal screens really is the big one. And that's logical because you can take your own preferences to really cater to your screen, to your region. You can use seats, you can have premium sound, you can have premium projection. So that's what's happening on the premium side. Now on the operational side, and this is as much true for India as it is for the rest of the world, chains are looking for scale. I mean, we're getting towards a post-VPF world, and scale is important. We see a lot of people growing by building their new chains. We see a lot of people taking acquisitions. I mean, that's the case here in India as well, but also globally, some very big moves which are going on at the moment. That's in terms of scale, but also in the back office, they're really looking, okay, how can I be more simple? How can I be more practical, more standardized on the things that happen in the background? How can I reduce labor? How can I reduce some other costs? Enter laser technology. So both our RGB and laser phosphor technologies really support these new trends. So very briefly on the two technologies, on the left, which supports the premium side, is RGB, red, which RGB stands for red, green, blue, which means you have 3 direct laser sources. We call that our flagship range. This really enables an unparalleled image quality. It goes to lengths of contrast, of uniformity, and especially on brightness, which has not been seen before. This one machine can do double of a single machine in lamps before, so it's really a big step up. On the other side, which is driving more the operational side of things, is laser phosphor. So laser phosphor is a little bit different. It relies on one direct laser, the blue, and it pushes it through a yellow phosphor to create the other colors. This is more for your mainstream cinema, and it's going to enable a lot more screens. Now, on the premium side and flagship, Barco has 125 screens already with flagship laser all across the world. This is in China, North America, Middle East, Latin, you name it. It's also here in India as well. And so we have a lot of experience with how it resonates with the audiences. So we've asked people coming out of the theaters what they think. And luckily, every single one who's come out of the theaters has said, wow, this image is really something we have not seen before. So basically everyone has given it a very good or a perfect score. So people really notice it. We don't have to educate it on them. They really notice it by themselves that this is something different. But what's more, people are saying, well, for this quality, I'm going to want to see more films. I want to see my favorite films in this format. This is different. I'm going to come to the cinema more often. And they're also, 2 out of 3 people have said that. People come outside of the screenings. But 3 out of 5 said also, well, I think it's fair to ask for a ticket premium. Now, I know it's not possible in all regions in India, for example, but at least that option, that possibility is there. So they're willing to give you more business for that better quality. And the best thing is, if you compare it to the lamp-based alternative, you consider it over the lifetime of 10 years, you don't have lamps anymore, your electricity goes down by 40%, it actually does not need to be more costly than the lamp-based alternative. So from the premium side, from a PLF experience, this is the best case that you'll find. Going back to the operational side, laser phosphor. Laser phosphor is about 3 things. It is about reduced total cost of ownership, it's about ease of use and practicalities, and actually also a little bit about image quality. Now, I made this slide on the plane, and I realized recently it looks like a big smiley face. So sorry about that, but there is a lot to be smiling about laser phosphor as well. So I'll explain a little bit what I mean by the things I've just said. Ease of use. First of all, no lamp hassle. You don't have to buy lamps anymore. You don't have to get rid of lamps anymore. People don't have to put in the lamp bulbs anymore. You don't have to keep stock of lamps anymore. All that is gone, because obviously there's a laser light source. The maintenance is less. And also, basically, this can go into your existing booth. Laser is not difficult. Laser, you can just replace your lamp projector today with a laser phosphor. And even the Barco ones on the same platform, you can actually get rid of the light part and retrofit a laser phosphor in it. So it really integrates with your existing environment. But the most significant one I find, and this is true for laser phosphor and for flagship, is you're switching between 2D and 3D. Lamps have a certain limit of how far you can dim, which means a lot of practice all around the world is the problem. Your 2D is often too bright, and your 3D is too dim. Now with laser phosphor, you can dim down to 30% of your total brightness, which is going to give you the opportunity to really get the right brightness in 3D and the right brightness in 2D. This is actually a bit of an image quality thing as well, but also ease of use. The TCO part I've talked about, you also get rid of lamps, and in laser phosphor, you actually get down to almost 50% of your electricity bill. Also the lifetime, because we really have invested a lot in cooling, can really go the distance. This can go to 30, even 40,000 hours, a bit depending on your setup. So it really can make the business case versus lamps. So the case on laser phosphor is made on TCO, total cost of ownership, and on ease of use. And as a little bonus, actually, the image looks better as well. Not the same kind of huge jump as flagship, but still, it's better. The contrast is better, the uniformity is better, there's no more flickering lamps, and most important one, it's constant. It's not lamp in, degrading, and then going back up. You will have from the first day to the last day a constant performance, and you'll be able to guarantee a certain quality to your customers. Now, this is my one but last slide. This is quickly the Barco portfolio. So at the top you see our range for flagship. So we have 4 different brightness ranges. So it goes up to 16,000 lumens. We recently launched 2 high contrast alternatives, which is actually allowing you to trade off some of the brightness to more contrast if that works better for your audiences. And on the bottom side, this is our laser phosphor range, which our C series is already out and shipped. And the B series is going to be end of this year. The B series also has 4K, for example. Next year, also for the smaller screens, sub 10,000, our S series will be launched. So we really have, across the range, laser solutions. Which takes us to this, all laser sites. Because we have this broad portfolio, exhibitors are choosing, well, I'm going to get rid of lamps altogether. I'm going to unlock the TCO gains on even a site level, which means you don't have to have a person on site anymore for lamps. It's not just on the screen if it's on the whole thing. And that person can do something more productive for you. He can do sales, he can do something else which is going to drive your business. That's better time, better spent. And obviously it's also a combination with the premium stuff. So really the operational stuff and the premium rooms together gives these all laser sites. And at the moment there's 15 that we enable in the world, and there's a lot more in the pipeline to come. So that was my, hopefully within time, presentation on laser. And I'll be looking forward to your questions once we start the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. I would now like to invite Rajesh to make his presentation and his opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I normally find this session is the most difficult session after lunch. We have to keep you awake for at least 1 hour now. I will not go into the details of what products it is. We will go through where the luminosity technology will be going at the end of, where we are looking at the end of it. So I'll just run through some presentation. We have been seeing the standard projection equipments everywhere today. Most of the screens have gone digital, whether it's e-cinema or D-cinema. We have digitization done almost throughout the India now. The question comes, where do I need, sorry, this is not working, I believe. Yep. We have 2 types of screens here today. One is the one which we call it as to have or not to have, the premium equipments or the premium screens. So to look at the premium screens, we look at all these equipments like Dolby Atmos, we look at laser projections, we look at different kinds of lobbies, premium experience for the customers. And what we look at is the brightness, contrast, colors, and most importantly, the high dynamic range, which makes all these three together. The resolution, yes, we are already at the 4K. Maybe in future time, we might be looking at 8K and beyond. I have no idea. As of date, we have 4K coming in. Digital cinema specs are more than about 10 years old now, which says better than 35 mm film. We are already there. The current RGB laser spec says 14-foot Lamberts suggested. It doesn't say that you must have those 14-foot Lamberts. This is where our today's projection system sets. The inner triangle, which talks about your HMI lamp projectors or the TVs we see today, that's the color spectrum we see today. The outer triangle, the middle triangle, we talk about the xenon lamps, which we are currently using it. And the outermost is where we are looking at laser projection, color gamut. That covers the maximum colors required for any cinema industry today. This is what our evil is in yellow notch filter. How many of us are aware of this yellow notch filter? Basically, when used in most of the technologies which are red deficient, like when we talk about getting the Coca-Cola red, which we don't get it, we use this yellow notch filter is being used. Yellow notch filter, basically what it does is it reduces the, it removes the yellow light from the emission spectrum and gets you that required light spectrum. We have xenon lamps, RGB, laser phosphor, and the mercury lamp. We call this as currently we have all these three technologies put in use by all exhibitors, all manufacturers in the market. We call this as a roundabout where we are as of now. We are currently at xenon lamps, looking at laser phosphor as a promising technology, and maybe laser, RGB, true laser as at the end of it. Xenon lamps. That actually has been put in use for some time now. We have this technology in market for some time, about more than 10 years, and covers up to about 35 to 40,000 lumens on cinema spectrum. When we talk about the large format screens, we have seen people going ahead with dual projection to get that additional brightness. But 35 to 40,000 is the limitation where xenon stops as of now. Mercury lamp in cinema. Mercury lamps has not been very successful in the cinema line, but because of the brightness level, it drops after say about initial 400, 500 hours. The color spectrum changes completely. So it has still into that category of a lower end where not much success on the mercury lamps. Then came the laser phosphor, which is today. As Nico said just now, it's the laser phosphor is the technology which is currently being promoted by many manufacturers all over the world in all the markets, whether it's cinema or non-cinema. It's as shown in the diagram, it's technology driven with the phosphor wheel and the blue lasers. Blue lasers being a technology which is very old, used everywhere in many fields. Sorry, I'm pressing maybe wrong button. Or it's going just. Yeah. Up to 30,000 lumens is possible with laser phosphor. But when we talk about the DCI specs, there is a question mark on a 30,000 lumens possibility on the laser phosphor because of the color spectrum which it sits into. It's red deficient, so you'll need to put what you call as the yellow notch filter into it to get the DCI spec colors, and that will reduce your light, and that will also reduce your light output on the screen. This is the technology where we will be going at the end of it. With RGB laser, true laser, 60,000 lumens plus, its possibility today. We are demonstrating this 60,000 lumens machine in India, currently demonstrated in Bangalore, close to our office, in Whitefield. Best color performance, the contrast ratio and the no compromise on this, no compromise on colors, no compromise on contrast, and this will fill up the whole spectrum in time to come. Currently it's sitting at the premium end today, premium cinemas, but it will finally fill up the whole spectrum which is required for the industry. Laser phosphor, we are looking at laser phosphor as of now today, but we believe that that is one technology which will not survive in the market because of the image performance, relatively short lifetime, which is about 50% light output, which reduces to about 20,000 hours, and the efficiency rate. With the yellow notch filter, you have about 60%, 40% brightness already cut off. Then comes in is your 3D, which results into another 32% light transparency on. You are left with very little light on the screen. With RGB laser, as comparison to that, there is no loss of light, there is no loss of color, there is no loss of contrast, because no yellow notch filter, or not requirement of a yellow notch filter to be used. The next generation development would be in red and green lasers, because as I said earlier, blue is already been developed, already been put in use at various industries. The cost is fairly low. The next scope of development is for red and green lasers. That will start bringing down the cost for the laser projectors. This is where we are looking at today. Currently, in 2016, we are still looking at a large number of projectors which are shipped, which are xenon, lamp-based. Then we see, as the market progress, the time goes, laser phosphor catching up, but finally you will see laser, true RGB laser in the market, and we expect that the last lamp-based projector would be shipped around 2020, 2021, maybe for 2022 for India. But we don't see lamp-based projectors going beyond that. So when we talk about the cost, screen size, lifetime, performance, we have compared all the four technologies, compare laser phosphor against laser, RGB laser. We just need to do few calculations in our mind. the lifespan of the technology, the ROI, the amount of money we spend, we put the operating cost into account and do some maths on it. That will give us the answer where we are actually heading towards. That's from my side.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite Mr. Yusuf from Galalite Screens to make a brief opening remark.
Very good afternoon to all of you present here. For those who don't know me, I'm Yusuf Galabhaiwala from Galalite Screens. And for those of you who know me, I'm the grandson of the founder of Galalite Screens. So my grandfather founded this company. And more than 5 decades ago, like more than 50 years ago, my grandfather established Galalite Screens, and till today it remains a family-run business. And our aim was simple. It was to create good quality projection screens, and that has been passed on from generation to generation, and that's how we have been able to sustain ourselves from so many years. And well, I'm proud of the fact that we are the only and the oldest family-run business all over the world manufacturing screens. Yeah.
Thank you, Yusuf. I would now like to invite Adam to make his opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Is that microphone working all right? Good. Okay. It's been said several times, but I do want to say thank you to Raghav and the organizers of this event. It's certainly surpassed our expectations so far. I think the crowd is huge. I've been to quite a lot of shows around the world, and the first shows are often attended by 5 or 10 people. So this is incredible. And I think India deserves a show at least of this scale and size. So well done to Raghav. I'm not an expert on all areas of cinema technology, so opening remarks really will focus on 3D. And I think generally, you know, when I started in technology in cinema with 3D, it was with Panavision. And we had a technology that was 17% light efficient. And at the time we shouted about that. It was groundbreaking, it was amazing, it was deemed to be the best thing ever. And that was only 6 years ago. And in 6 years, we've moved now to double that light technology. So the title of this is future-proof, and sadly in technology nothing is future-proof. The nature of technology is progress, it moves on, it will always move on. But I think what is important for exhibitors is to always have the best available technology they can at the time to present the best images and sounds to cinema goers, because they get it in the home, they get it in their hands with handhelds, they're used to high quality sound and images. So it's really important that all cinemas now are looking beyond the technologies of 6 years ago, and even maybe fewer than that, and really moving forwards with the times. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. So I will now commence with the panel discussion. I'll just throw open the floor for any of the panelists to take this question. What do you think are the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in the projection technology for cinema exhibitors in India? So would you like to take the question, Nico?
Sure. I think the opportunity is going to be in the multitude of choice that you have today. And the challenge and the opportunity. There's so much now available in terms of technology, in terms of choices, that really empowers exhibitors. They can really enforce their own strategy and be different. And that's in all parts of technology, that's also on the business side. So that's where we see, for sure, in India and in the world, the most of the opportunity going forward.
What do you think, Rajesh?
I'll agree with him, because it's the different kinds of choices what we have today. And it's not only the illumination technology, but even on the 3D front, even on the other audio or everything, its market has really opened up. And the choices are really means customer being a king now.
I have a question for Adam. Adam, do you think the 3D's growing penetration is setting new benchmarks in projection technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 3D, depending on how you look at it, drove the whole digitization of cinema. Certainly early on when we were working with it, I would say 100% of the D-cinema installs we did were 3D. To start with, it was the way to move. And funnily enough, actually, when I was at Panavision, we had a 35mm 3D technology, which was, it still is one of the best I've ever seen in terms of image quality on a new film print with 3D is incredible. But we saw over time, now there are many D-cinema sites being installed that aren't 3D. So I think in terms of global benchmark and penetration, 3D is maybe 60 to 70,000 screens globally. It has room to grow, but it doesn't have room to grow hugely. I don't see a world of 100% 3D anymore. I think it will reach a point where it will evolve rather than keep growing. But I think 3D, without 3D, there wouldn't be digital penetration like we have it today, not as quickly as it came through.
Okay, yeah, that's great. What do you think, Yusuf, as a manufacturer of screens, how do you see the evolution of the technology as far as screens are concerned?
Well, where screens are concerned, 3D is, of course, it's the future. I mean, there are more, but yes, of course, as Adam said, that there has to be a peak. I mean, you cannot just have 3D. There will always be 2D movies, and there will always be a choice. As far as screen is concerned, what all screen manufacturers, in fact, look for is that there are silver screens which are required for passive 3D, and there are of course, I mean, if the design of the cinema, and there are a lot of other factors which evolve around how important the screen selection is. And the silver screen or the high gain silver screens have certain flaws, and we are trying, all screen manufacturers in fact are trying to have a screen which has good polarization, which has good depth, which has a good 3D effect in simple terms, but at the same time looks like a white screen, has good light overall diffusion of light, and it behaves like a white screen. So yeah, we are even we have that in our range, and most screen manufacturers are working towards that, and that's the continuous process. I mean, we continuously try to improve upon this.
So this is more of a marketing question. Which are the emerging markets globally where the projection sales are looking good? And what do you all feel are the factors which drive the projector sales?
Well, the regions where we see most development at the moment is in Eastern Europe, Middle East, in Southeast Asia, but particularly, as you would expect, in China. And in China, we have a very strong presence. We got somewhere between 50 and 60% of market share, thanks to a good cooperation there with the China Film Group. And of course, it's in part on the back of China as a whole. There's a lot of real estate development, and cinema is on the piggyback of that. Obviously, the disposable income of the people going to the cinema increases. But there's also a very clear strategy from the government in China. They really empower cinema. They take away any hurdles that they can. They really let them to be open, experiment with what they want in terms of ticket price, in terms of the models that they want to do. And they also subsidize the screens, because they realize if the cinema industry, and that will be the same for India, of course, as well, if the cinema industry grows, they will benefit from it as well. They will benefit through taxes, they will benefit from employment. And that's, and it has worked well, as everybody knows. I mean, China is really, and it still is, amazingly growing in cinema. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the emerging markets.
What do you think, Rajesh?
What Nico just said is correct. It's China who's actually driving the cinema market today. We do not have as much as what you sell, but we also sell good numbers. However, but we cannot compare these two countries, these two economies with China and India, because China is basically a government push initiative, whereas ours is from the other side of it. Government doesn't push it the way Chinese government is doing it. So we are looking at the market size, which is growing at a much slower pace than China, but yes, we have an Indian market which is growing, and we have an Eastern European market which is growing as of now, and the Chinese market, yes, of course.
And how do you look at India as far as the projection standards are concerned? Say in the next 5 years, what kind of standards are we looking at?
Currently, we already have about close to 3,000 screens which are done on D-Cinema, and I believe in another 3 to 4 years' time, we should be converting about another 3,500, 4,000 screens, everybody put together. And beyond that, I actually see for anyone to convert it into a D-Cinema, the financials come into it. And unfortunately, the financials in India do not go with the exhibitor's side. Means the return of investment becomes a sometimes issue for screens which are in a smaller towns. So those are the places where I believe the government can concentrate on to promote the industry, but otherwise the D-Cinema might stop at about 7,500, 8,000 screens.
What do you think, Yusuf? The large format cinema, will that sort of, set new standards again, like the IMAX kind of?
It should, but it's a very limited, as where India is concerned, it's a pretty limited market, because it's in major countries, major cities, but then when you go to smaller towns, there is the audience. I mean, there is people who want to come to the cinema, but then for every cinema owner, as far as I understand, there are so many hurdles to get so many kinds of permissions to just set up a single cinema in India, and because of which I mean, people cinema. There is the cinema industry. There is a cinema industry. There is a the technical side of setting up theaters and all those things are there, but then that's not in today's day. There are very limited people who would say that, okay, now I'm going to launch a chain of cinemas. That is the amount of time and the money that takes to set up such a chain is requires. I mean, there are other alternative industries which any business owner would want to invest in.
How do you look at it, Adam? What's your take on that?
It's interesting from a 3D perspective that when we look at the D-Cinema penetration in India, the 3D percentage is pretty much global average. It's quite high. It's about normal. So the 3D D-Cinema in India is there's nothing we would worry about. It looks standard. But what I'm surprised at is that there wasn't or hasn't been more Indian-produced 3D. Given, I was here 4 years ago in Mumbai at the cinema convention, and in fact, I think Real Image had produced some content for that. It might have been 4K, it was HD, it looked amazing with the local, I think it was the sort of Bollywood content with the color and the movement, the sound. It really would lend itself to the current high technology we've got. But it still seems to be Hollywood driving 3D. So as long as it is Hollywood driving 3D, we'll be stuck in one part of India's cinema industry, which is the smaller part, which is the D-Cinema part. So I think, like everybody, we want to see growth here of D-Cinema, but also 3D, local 3D, not just Hollywood 3D, which doesn't fully answer the question, but it's just a point I wanted to get across. We'd like to see more of that here, and we thought it was going to happen maybe 4 years ago, and it didn't for whatever reason. So, yeah.
What do you have to say, Nico?
I think there's a huge opportunity here in India, because there's so much growth still to be had, both from an e-cinema side, but also just from a general growth perspective. If you look at the screen penetration per head, it's still a massive, it's a sleeping giant really, and I think everybody acknowledges that. But because of that, there's always an opportunity to leapfrog to that, because it's a future-proof, right? About really the new standards, and that is going to be laser. It is going to be RGB laser, and it is going to be laser phosphor. RGB laser is obviously better than laser phosphor, but the cost is not going to come down hugely. I mean, the blue has a mature supply chain, the green and the red don't. There's no evidence today that they will go massively come down. So obviously it's better, but it's not going to help you have on the main screen. And laser phosphor really is much better than lamps, and it will continue to be over the lifetime. It's better contrast. It gets the same brightness. Yes, the phosphor will throw some away, but the blue laser is so efficient that doesn't matter. So I think looking at the future, and I hope that, and I have a lot of discussions here in India in that respect, there's a great opportunity to really already take the leapfrog for the world and really look at the laser technologies which are available.
I would now like to throw open the floor to the delegates. If anybody have any questions, please raise your hand so we could have a very interactive 15-minute session. Anybody from the audience? Do you all have any questions, please? Your name, sir?
My name is Rajesh. I'm from Bangalore. My question is to Nico. You said the technologies are evolving and technologies will differentiate the market. That's one. And two, you also said India is going to leapfrog when you look at the total number of screens in the country. With this, with this context, in this context, if someone is going to expand or put some new screens, where do you start? Which kind of technology you use? You need to differentiate for a start, and technologies are evolving, as Rajesh said. So, if you start something, you should have a vision for the next 5-10 years. So, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I guarantee that India will leapfrog. I said there's an opportunity, there's clearly potential. So I don't want to be self to say I vouch for that growth. I think we see definitely the potential. And then with respect to your question on what technology you should be looking at, if you look at for a new screen, obviously I can only talk about the image quality. That's where our expertise lies. And it's not a straightforward question. It's a multitude of things. I mean, for example, 4K. That's one of the things that there's a lot of talk about. 4K is one component, but you also have to look at getting the right brightness. I think even the step up from getting adequate brightness in 3D can really make so much difference. There's so many dim 3D screens out there today. If you present people with a proper image in 3D, that really can already make such a difference, and that's on all your content, not on specially graded content. It's about contrast. It's all different things, and some people prefer it different than others. I've got some people who prefer more the resolution. I've got some people who prefer more the brightness, and it's really not a one-size-fits-all answer. And we try and guide always our customers to something that works for them and also is economically viable, because we can do a lot of crazy things. We can do 1:1 contrast. We can do a lot more brightness, but it has to make sense for you. So I'm sorry I cannot give a specific answer, and I'm happy to talk to you individually to see where your preferences lie. But yeah, it really has to make sense for you to see what your customers are going to appreciate, and that's going to be the right answer for you.
Anybody else? Yeah, we have a gentleman in the back, please.
When you talk about technology for the future, you have, I think in India, I come from Sri Lanka, you have in India the A-grade cinemas, the B-grade cinemas, and you have the C-grade or whatever the village cinemas. Now you have the evolvement of e-cinema, which came 10 years ago, and you see it being faded out and replaced by D-cinema. Now the people who invest in D-cinema projectors, according to what we understand from today's conversation, in another maybe 7 to 8 years, they will fade out and the laser technology will come in. So they are you see a dilemma. I think you invest in the D-Cinema, the lamp projection, and then it is at a certain cost now, and laser is not so affordable. So the people who invest in the bulb projection, in 7 to 8 years' time, they may find themselves in a difficult situation if they have to convert to laser projection technology. So what is the advice you can give the cinema owners over the next 7 to 8 years period as to how they should strategize and invest their money in projection equipment? Thank you.
I think Rajesh will take that.
That's the question which is normally asked at every level. Every now and then when the new technology comes in, this is the question comes in, whether do I wait for that technology to come down or do I invest in today's technology? In this case, the answer is, even if, as I said in my presentation, we see at Christie that the last lamp-based projector would be shipped out of by 2022. The support levels goes beyond that. The support levels for those machines which are last shipped for cinema market goes beyond about 10 to 12 years, maybe 15 years after that. So I don't see any worry of the product not getting supported. And in addition to that, as of now, if somebody is coming up with the screens today, or maybe a year down the line or 2 years down the line, xenon-based equipment still becomes a natural choice because of the cost and performance ratio you can calculate. We don't see laser pricing coming down that drastically, RGB laser, and laser phosphor will be another choice. But that would be the choice. But I don't see the support levels going out of market. There will be support available for the lifetime of the equipment.
Anybody else? We have one gentleman in the back. This side, right side. We have time for a couple of questions and then we'll be wrapping up this session.
Hi, good evening. My questions to Mr. Nico. I myself is a Barco user and I'm into e-cinema. I've not used D-Cinema till now. You were speaking about the laser phosphor. I use a W8 projector at the moment. Is it possible to connect it? It's a little bit technical question, so that's why. Can you connect the laser phosphor onto your existing projector?
The laser phosphor we can retrofit on our Barco projectors, but on the D-Cinema projectors. So we bring out C and B series laser phosphor, and the previous models and lamps we can retrofit. So we can take the lamp house out and we can put the laser light source in. But also, obviously, on the same platforms. But we have a good modularity, so whatever D-Cinema projector we put out, so B and C, and next year also the S, we can go back. But if yours is an e-cinema projector, that's not going to be possible.
Okay, so you'll have to convert to a D, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
and
so a D-Cinema, and I mean, and I'll add on a bit to the question before. The laser phosphor has to make sense from an economical perspective, right? I mean, we don't expect you to just go for laser phosphor because of the name of it. We have to look at it with you, what makes economically sense for you. We only want to bring things which can drive your business. So if it's viable for you, it's always something we can look at.
Yeah, because I have a very long theater, so it's around 120 feet is a throw. So I had a lot of tough time selecting the projector because I had to do a little bit of masking as well. It's a very old theater with a little bit of construction deficiency. So I had to do all this. So that is why we had to find that this W8 is what worked for me. So that is why I'm particularly asking. So how does the throw affect the laser technology, as in if does it have any reduction in the light or the contrast or what?
Well, I'm getting a bit of the verge of where I can answer in terms of technical, because I'm more of a business guy, but I know as much that the distance to the screen does not have an effect. Not for laser, not for lamps, that's the same thing. So normally, unless I'm guessing there should be an exceptional amount of dust maybe, I don't know. But normally the distance for the projector to the screen should not have an impact.
So, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
We can take one last question, and then we'll wrap up the session.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Nico, as well as Mr. Rajesh. My name is Shravan. I'm hailing from Kerala. Borrowing the words which was suggested by Mr. Nico, only 125 out of the total number of 65,000 screens all over the world has been equipped with laser technology, and Barco at present has got 3 variants, basically 2K, 4K, as well as laser, and also, as far as Mr. Rajesh suggested, you suggested that within 2022, that is starting from 2015 and 2022, there would be an evolution from lamp towards laser phosphor, and ultimately it would be RGB. And when technology runs in the pace of a horse, how do both the technological leaders, that is both Christie as well as Barco, expect the users, that is specifically the exhibitors, to update themselves with the technology? Because when when Barco finishes the completion of laser in their 65,000 screens, it would be finished only in some next 10 to 12 years. So within that period, a new technology can arrive. So how do both the technology, both Christie and Barco, expect the exhibitors to go along with themselves?
Can I? Okay.
Please.
Well, it's true, there's 65,000 screens, but they were not all installed yesterday. I mean, the wave has already been going for quite a few years, and already the discussions on what we call the renewal wave, there's already exhibitors talking to us about this, about what our strategy is going forward. We've always proud ourselves also to be able to bring new technologies to the installed base. And like I said, the retrofit already enables it. If people have a Barco projector, they want to get the benefits of a laser phosphor, they can. And that's been better retrievability. That's always been the case. It's the same in our flagship. The flagship, you have a brightness projector we brought out. We now gave a high contrast version. The existing people who chose a flagship, they can convert to a high contrast. We give that option. It's the same for 2K and 4K. People who chose 2K originally, when 4K came out, we could give them a 4K upgrade. So always go out of our way to make sure that you don't have to wait till the projector really is at the end of life to bring new technologies. And was there another part to your question? Was there a question in terms of numbers?
Yeah, 125 out of the 65,000 screens have got the laser technology as far as right now at this point of time. 125 out of 65,000 screens globally.
No, I'm not sure if I said that. There's 125 today, flagship projectors. That's
flagship
what I said. And the Phosphor is just rolling out now at the moment. So we're fulfilling, well, we have all these old laser sites which have a lot of laser Phosphor, and we're just rolling out. I don't have that number on Phosphor handy, but let's say in terms of the projection that we have, we expect in 2 years' time, market-wide, that the laser shipments will be bigger than the lamps shipments. And indeed, lamps will have some place, like my colleague also says, and they will continue to be supported. But that conversion is happening, as we see, quite quickly.
Yeah, it will be on the similar lines. As we also offer 2K upgrade to 4K. On the same machines, you need not do anything beyond that. Unless you are using a small chipsets, the machines do not go obsolete in 2K. But otherwise, the standard chipsets can be upgraded to the 4K. In addition to that, the laser phosphor will allow you to upgrade your current projection technology, the xenon-based technology, to the laser phosphor. And as Nico said, not everybody bought it as of yesterday. This digital revolution started way back in 2006, 2005, 2004. So people have already reached the lifespan of the projector, or maybe reaching in another 2 years, 3 years. So we will see that replacement cycle kicking in next 1 or 2 years. And then again, this whole cycle will start with the peak coming somewhere around 2023, 24, 25 for the whole screen, whole world to change the screens. And again, we will see a slack 10 years down the line. This is a cycle. So whichever goes on top has to come down.
What you suggest is that there will be a minimum replacement cycle for whichever technology which you introduce. Say a minimum of some 5 to 7 years.
No, with Christie, we talk about minimum 10 years. Minimum 10 years of usage on the projector. that's the support we talk about.
But definitely, do we have an option to upgrade in between this 10 years if the exhibitor is willing?
Sorry?
Do we have an option to upgrade? That is, if Christie can Christie able to provide an option to upgrade?
See, currently we are providing the 2K to 4K option with the laser phosphor on few equipments, few models, but time to come you'll have laser phosphor on all the machines. You'll have maybe, I don't know, I'm not the person from the engineering, so I have no idea if RGB laser can be converted into the same product. That's the future. Another 3, 4 years, 5 years down the line. So
I must extend my sincere thanks to all the panelists for a wonderful session, and I must also thank all the audience. So thank you, Raghav.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to quickly request the director of Big Cine Expo to kindly head onto the stage and present Mr. Rajesh Patkar, Deputy General Manager of Christie Digital India, with a memento. I request Mr. Nico D. Clercq, Strategic Marketing Manager from Barco, to kindly accept a small token of our appreciation. Now request Mr. Adam MacDonald, Director of MasterImage 3D, also to accept our appreciation for being here today and giving us a very interesting panel discussion. Request Mr. Yusuf S. Galabhaiwala of Galalite Screens to accept a token of appreciation. And last but not least, I'd like to request Mr. Raghav to present the moderator, Mr. Manojkumar Madhavan, Head of CorpCom and Marketing, Real Image Media Technologies, with a memento. Thank you, sir.